Hello everyone and welcome to Supe's On. This is where you get the latest news from around the Springford Area School District. I'm Steve Bonnett. Joining me now is the Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Gooden. Welcome, Dr. Gooden.
Hey Steve, how you doing?
Good. It's been a very long time. I almost forgot what you look like.
Did you?
Yeah.
Well, I shaved a little bit, cleaned up.
Yeah, I think the last time you might have had glasses, maybe you didn't. I don't remember. It's been such a long time. We're going to have to make a point to come back a little bit more.
Yeah.
Well, back to school. We are halfway through the first marking period, which is, like we say every year, is just flying by. Once we start school, it goes pretty quick. How is back to school?
Back to school, I think this year was probably the smoothest we've done. We had a lot of things we put in place to get us ready for the start of school. Spent a lot of time over the summer prepping, working all the departments, making sure everybody had what they needed. So I felt the opening in general was very smooth.
And we're going to hit those departments a little bit later in the state of Springford, but one of the first things that we did, or newest things we did this year, was first day packets being online. Very successful.
It was. We received a tremendous amount of positive feedback from that. It was my understanding that, for example, if you had multiple children in the district, the first day of school, the kids would come home and they'd have all these papers that needed to be signed. And the parents would have to go through all those papers and sign all those and get them returned. In addition to the fact that it was very difficult for us to get all that information back, and so you might have a half return rate, and then our secretaries would have to spend time chasing down documents, and so we put it all online. And so now parents, when they log into Skyward to check their child's schedule, they're able to go through and check off and sign, if you will, those documents for all their children at one time. And my understanding, it was like a 10-minute process that we got it down to. And so we received a tremendous amount of positive feedback. Now we're still looking at adding a couple more forms onto that for next year, but as a process as a whole, it went extremely well.
And it's very important for that to be done because the forms need to be done.
Yes.
And when you have so many in paper form, it's very difficult to find the time to sit down and do 2, 3, 4, or 5 kids of forms. Now you can go in there and be done in 10 minutes, all 5, 3, depending on the number you have.
Well, yeah, and like you said, Steve, if there's multiple children in a family, then they've got to go through all of those papers for each child. Whereas the new system, the way it's set up, you can address all of your children all at one time. And so my understanding, it was much more efficient, it's quicker. We received a lot of positive feedback.
And next year it's going to be even better yet, smoother, because we went through it one time, the parents went through it one time. Okay. Excuse me, another new initiative or program or parent back to school. One night, all the programs, all the groups got together and parents could meet at the 9th grade center and meet each group and learn about their particular school. What a great night that was.
Yeah, I believe that was extremely well perceived or received by our community. The parents were able to come in. They were able to, if they needed help with the first day packets, they were able to get that done. We also had a station where they could come in if they wanted to volunteer. We would walk them through and help them get their clearances done and completed. As well as being able to go in one location and see the athletic booster group, SNAP, our Students Need an Alternative Party, our after prom committee, they're represented there. All the Holman schools were represented there. We had representatives from our curriculum department. As you know, this year we rolled out a new reading series, English Language Arts series in the elementary schools. And so we had curriculum folks there who were able to talk to our parents about what that was and help them out in understanding that new curriculum. So it was a great night and well attended. And I might add that both of these initiatives, the back to school night and the online
first day packets,
that's really been headed up by our marketing PR person, Erin Crew. She really took those tasks and really ran with them and has got those completed. She's done a nice job with that.
Very nice. Moving on to the state of the Springford, we briefly mentioned that with back to school and hitting all the departments. how are we doing in terms of an overall as a district from a superintendent standpoint?
Well, as you know, we're a fairly large district. We're right around the third highest population in Montgomery County, approximately 7,900. We hover around that student number. And we have the fifth largest budget. We're running right around a $152 million budget. Now, having said all that, we are also running the third lowest per student cost in the county.
And I don't think people realize that. I mean, we have high budget, but we are running per student a very low cost.
Absolutely, that's an area of extreme efficiency for us. And there's lots of factors that go into calculating that per student cost. But suffice it to say that we have a very low per student cost or expenditure, while at the same time, as far as when you look at taxes in the Springfield Area School District, we're right around the lowest in the county. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, around the sixth lowest rate in the county. And so it's affordable to live in Springfield. And not only is it affordable, but you're also getting a high quality educational experience for your children when you do choose Springfield as your educational provider. And so from a cost perspective, from an experience perspective, and the quality of the service, Springfield is outstanding.
And you can see that by people moving into the district. I mean, there's a lot of people, the real estate boom is booming in the Springfield area. So what are one of the two factors that go into, the student cost per student?
Well, when you look at, really what you're looking at primarily, the primary driver is staffing. The cost of your staffing, as far as your support staff, your faculty costs, your professional faculty costs, your administrative costs, special ed, all of those things are rolled into a cost per student. Okay.
I want to break down a couple departments.
Okay.
Transportation is a very big department.
It is.
How many students are transported, in a course of a year, course of a day? What kind of numbers do you have with transportation?
Well, in a day, we're looking at, we're transporting approximately 8,500 students. Those are both our students that are coming to our school and students that we transport to other schools, private schools, daycares, et cetera, charter schools. All those factor into our total transportation numbers.
Okay, and now what else? How many buses are we running per day here in the Springfield School District?
I'm not sure exactly how many buses we're running, but we're running about 450 or so bus routes. So some of those buses run multiple routes. They'll run an elementary route, they'll run a secondary route, but we're running approximately 450 routes each day. And if you look at, how much we're, the distance we're driving, the amount of miles, if you put it in perspective, it's like making about 370 round trips to San Francisco every year. When you look at the mileage that we're putting on.
Yeah, we are not a small district.
We're not a small district, and we cover a lot of miles. We travel to approximately 60 different schools. When you count all the schools, our schools, and the schools that we travel to. So yeah, it's a big operation, and there's lots of stops and lots of logistics to work out when you're planning those things.
And I think a lot of people don't realize how big we are and how many routes we're running per day. And I think people need to understand that it's not an easy task. It is a daunting task to make sure people are at the right places, the buses, and are on time.
Yeah, and you also want to run an efficient operation. This isn't necessarily door-to-door service. It's mass transit, and so you try to consolidate bus stops where you can. And for the sake of efficiency, we don't want to keep our students on the bus longer than necessary, so we really try to monitor the bus ride itself, how long a student is on the bus. And so it's a big operation, and I have to commend the transportation department, Mrs. Sanderson, and her department for overseeing that and being as sufficient as they are.
How about food services? Close to 9,000 students. We have a lot of students here. Talk about food services and how we stand in that department.
Well, one of the things that we did this year when we mentioned our back to school open house night, one of the things we want to do is have a presence, have our food service department have a presence at those events so that parents come in and they had questions about costs, making payments, paying for their child's lunches, or completing the free and reduced lunch forms. We wanted to have a presence there, and so Miss Gennario, she was at those events, and Paula does a nice job with getting out there and keeping the public informed of what's available for their students.
Now, there was a presentation. How many lunches were served on the first 3 days? I think it was an astounding number. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I believe it was right around 7,000 or so, maybe a little bit more than 7,000 lunches in 3 days.
Which is a lot of lunches for the department. Now, it's district-wide, but still a lot of lunches.
A lot of lunches. Yeah, we get a fairly decent participation rate in our cafeterias. There's some things that we're looking at to improve, certainly at the secondary level, and make some changes and maybe make some changes to our offerings for our students. But overall, I think we're pretty efficient in that area.
Now, the changes would be for the next year, so that's discussions are still on. They won't happen for this school year, but possibly next school year.
Yeah, we're just looking at different ways to deliver students' meal and what are the offerings out there. So we're going to trying to diversify and make it a little bit more interesting.
Okay. The final department I want to talk about is technology. Technology has become a very large part of a big tool in the classroom.
Yeah.
Talk about technology.
Well, you know, Steve, that technology is one of those departments that as long as everything's running well, nobody says anything. It's when things aren't running well that technology gets a lot of notice. But as far as a department, we were able to put a new technology director in place last year, and his name is Justin Webb, and he's done a nice job really guiding the district as we implement our technology resources in the classrooms for our teachers, and in all areas where the technology is touching the experience that students have here. So they do a nice job, and they're often very busy in the summertime.
Yeah, I mean, what takes place during the summertime in terms of laying out computers and the technology getting ready for the start of the school year?
Well, when I talked to Mr. Webb, and he gave me an update on what he was doing over the summer, he was telling me that they re-imaged 650 student laptops. Now, don't ask me what re-imaging means. I'm not sure exactly what that means. I've got an idea what it means, but I'm not sure what's all involved. But so the approximately 650 student devices were re-imaged. Each year, we replace or refresh is what we call our teacher laptops, and they're on a cycle. And so we did about 200 staff laptops this year because we lease these things. And so each year we do approximately 200 student or teacher devices. And then you're looking at the whole smart board deployment, about 60 of those we put out. So they keep pretty busy.
So a lot of, re-imaging, a lot of touching of computers. 650 computers were actually touched, plus, that's students, and then, staff as well. So
yeah.
They don't have a lot of time. 3 months,
no.
less than 3 months to get all these, computers, smart boards in place, which takes a lot of time, and they're hustling in the summertime.
Yeah, that's my observation. They're very busy. A lot of times in the school year, they're troubleshooting, providing desktop assistance, etc. But in the summertime is when they're getting their work done. And so when you're talking about re-imaging 650 laptops, in addition to refreshing 200 teacher laptops. That's a lot of work, and all those have to be set up and ready for the first time the teacher turns them on, as well as the students turning them on.
And it doesn't mean they have a full staff either that they have in a school year, because there's some employees that are 10 months, so they don't have to really work. So
that's right.
They're short staffed doing it in the summertime.
Yeah.
So overall, the state of the Springford, in your opinion, going very well.
Well, I think we're doing extremely well. We had said a long time ago we'd set out to be the educational provider of choice for our families, and so I think we've really tried to highlight customer service experience, making sure that we're providing information and a service to our families that cause them to want to maintain us as their educational provider. And I think the how we're doing really plays out in areas such as the release of the latest SPP scores. That just came out this week, and I think that really highlights some of the areas where we're doing well.
You mentioned the SPP scores, and that's the student performance profile.
Yes.
Talk about that, a 99.7 for the high school.
Yes.
But overall, Limerick very high.
Yes.
I mean, there's other buildings that are very high. I mean, high school kind of got the main, the main focus at 99.7. But overall, as a district, very impressive.
Yeah, the district as a whole is doing extremely well. I know that you just mentioned Limerick Elementary. They were their SPP score puts them at the highest in the county. As far as elementary school and the high school, as you mentioned, a 99.7. That really puts Springford Area High School about one of the top ranked schools in the state, high schools in the state. And so we're now competing with a lot of the districts that have been historically identified as high achieving, and some in Montgomery County, some in the Philadelphia area, some in the Pittsburgh area. But we are, the high school is now counted in those groups, in those high-performing schools. And which is interesting because, as we mentioned earlier, that our per student cost is relatively low. And so parents are getting a good experience for their children at a reasonable cost.
And talking to Dr. Nugent, and Mrs. Bast, it really starts at the ground up. You know what I mean? The high school is getting the press, as you will, if you will, but really starts at the elementary level, building the kids up so when they get here and they have to take the standardized tests here, they're ready.
You're absolutely right. A house doesn't get built starting at the attic, at the roof. It starts at the foundation. In your basement, and everything else builds on that, and that's the same in education. You've got to have a quality program in your foundation years, your elementary years, and on which that you build. And but I also, the quality of your staff, the effort of your staff, the instructional strategies that are in place, the expectations that we have upon our students is very high. We have high norms, high expectations. In addition to the fact that we're a community that values education, and that's very evident. Many of our families, majority of our families, place a high priority on their child's education, and that shows in day-to-day school life.
You talk about the per cost per student. You talk about the educational value. Springford started a new program, which is not a rare, but at the elementary level might be a little bit rare. It's called RamQuest for students in grades 1 through 4. Mm-hmm. Overall, how is that going? It's still early on, clearly, but overall, generally, how is that going as a new program?
Well, one of the things that we started to do a few years ago is really look at science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and the arts, and how that all blends together. And the acronym is STEAM, but we really wanted to weave a thread throughout our curriculum, K through 12, in which the focus really was on science, technology, engineering, math, the arts, and weave that through our curriculum and make sure that it's highlighted. And so I think we now have that thread that runs throughout our curriculum where you've got students highly engaged, they're very hands-on, and that's what we see with RamQuest. These students in the elementary are now at one cycle or in their rotation, or
1 day.
yeah,
one day out of a 6-day cycle.
Right, 1 day out of a 6-day cycle. They actually go to the RamQuest class, which is extremely hands-on. They're learning, they're doing, they're engaged, they're working, they're doing coding, they're working with math, science, but it's all very hands-on and very engaging. From what I've seen, the elementary students are very positive about it, and the parents. We've got a lot of positive feedback from them. And so it looks like a very solid program that's well received, and students are very much involved in it.
Well, a lot of questions are what RamQuest is. We have a video. Let's show the video right now, and this is RamQuest in grades 1 through 4.
It's a class to help students learn to think critically and creatively to solve problems.
It will help them collaborate and be creative and work together.
The new class is called RamQuest for students in grades 1 through 4.
We had a unique opportunity with a 6-day cycle in our elementary schools to bring another class to our students, and we couldn't think of a better thing to bring than a class where kids could tinker and work with different products and materials and do some science-based, some inquiry-based activities. They'll also be learning about cyber safety and doing some more coding as they did last year with Hour of Code.
RamQuest really is a class to help the students become better thinkers. Through technology, math and science experiments, coding, better thinkers and better problem solvers.
As an educator, what are the benefits to having a program like RamQuest?
It's a class designed to teach our young students 21st century skills and address real life issues. All of our elementary students participate, so this will encourage more students to take computer science classes and possibly pursue a career in engineering or technology, which is needed in our workforce.
And RamQuest has been a huge success.
The children come in every day super excited. I even have kids stop me in the hallway. What are we doing in RamQuest this week? And they may have had RamQuest the day before. And I love that they say, what are we doing, not what are we learning? Because that's what RamQuest is all about, doing things.
Teachers have said their classes look forward to coming, and I've also gotten positive feedback from parents that are pleased that the district has added this class.
I like RamQuest because we get to do a lot of fun stuff like math. We get to do computer programming, some science things, fun play outside, and computer coding, and I like coding.
I like RamQuest because it's good when you problem solve. You end up socializing with other people and learning at the same time.
The future for RamQuest really will be to review what worked, what students liked, what they did well with. Think about other ways that we can challenge them. So we'll be looking at a continual improvement model to continue to engage and challenge students.
And that really shows what kids are doing. Now it's one class. We got out to one class. They were trying to see how far a car goes, on a track, using a book, using dominoes. But the kids really were engaged, as you mentioned before the video, that they're really enjoying it, and parents are enjoying it as well because the kids are coming home and saying how much fun it is.
Yeah, I think Zach's, one of the teachers in RamQuest, summed it up nicely. He said they're coming in and wanting to know what are we going to do today, not necessarily what they're going to learn, but as they're doing, they're also learning. So it's a great program, and as I said, it's been well received by our students and by our community.
And one of the students mentioned talking about socializing and learning. And that's very important at that level is, you can socialize and interact with your peers and help each other. And, failing's not a bad thing. Right. You fail, and then eventually you're going to succeed. And, one of the, sound bites that didn't make it was you have to fail to succeed. Right. You have to fail to learn, which is a very, very true statement.
And it's a true statement, and but not widely accepted. Nobody likes to feel that they failed, but the reality is anytime you're moving forward and you're working towards a goal or trying to achieve something, there's a very real possibility that you will fail. And that's where the whole idea of grappling with something comes into play, where you're actually working towards something. And just, that's one of the concepts that oftentimes gets lost. Learning is work. Learning is hard work. It's not easy. And that's one of the things that we want to make sure our students understand, that you can have all the innate ability in the world, but you've got to have a work ethic that goes along with it. And putting kids into situations where they have to work together is only going to enhance their ability to grapple, if you will, with new concepts and new ideas, and learning how to learn, and having a work ethic that causes them to grapple and really work towards learning something. So
Collaboration is important, no matter what age you are. I mean, if you're at a job working, you need to collaborate with a peer trying to do a task. So totally, RamQuest is a great program.
it is.
Great program. Well, thank you very much. We're going to have to get together a little bit sooner
We will, Steve.
next time. Thank you very much. For a complete list of all the shows, log on to spring-ford.net and click the RCTV tab. Thank you for watching Soup's On. Have a good night, everybody.